So I'm delighted to say joining us to look ahead to that Arsenal game, that irrelevant Arsenal game, because the Premier League is beneath West Ham United now, European conquerors, is Dan Cutt, sports journalist from The Sun, big gooner, good friend of mine. Cutsy, nice to have you back on the show again, mate. Thanks very much for joining. Top four in the bag for Arsenal, is it not?
We started to do our best to throw it away, didn't we? But two very good wins on the bounce, while not playing very well. But at this stage of the season, it's not about playing well, is it? As you well know, Will, it's about winning games, and as long as we're doing that, I'm happy. So not quite in the bag yet, but I'm slowly coming around to that it might actually happen, which would be a bit of a miracle. But there you go.
Yeah, I'll be honest, it's a weird one. I was speaking to you obviously for a while. I've sort of backed Arsenal for ages. I just thought Tottenham. It is obviously one of those classic seasons for the race for the top four, like who's the least rubbish rather than who's the best team. But I sort of had Arsenal in the bag. I just think you've got too much quality. I think Saka and Smith are amazing. The Arteta effect is seemingly taking hold, and Tottenham I just thought they had too many bricks in them. There's a clear gulf between you and Man United at the weekend. I'd watched all your game, and I thought you were good value for the win.
Yeah, it was a weird one. I went Saturday. It was I don't think that they were awful. United got a bit unlucky. I thought Ronaldo was incredible. Again, at his age, to do what he does consistently. Every time he got the ball, he looked dangerous against us, and the work rate and everything he does is just way above anyone else, and we struggle to deal with him. Our issues are solely to do with the fact that we have two fullbacks that aren't very good, and injuries are to key players like Partey and Tomiyasu haven't helped, and Tierney. But actually, like you say, what we've got on our side is that I think we've got the youngest or the second youngest overall squad in the league.
Yeah, I saw that stat. Yeah.
And we're very lucky to have players like Saka, who is absolutely incredible. He's an incredible footballer. By far the best footballer that's come out of our academy in a long time, since Wilshire, and that 10, 12 years ago. He is absolutely brilliant. I think he could play for any team in the world. I really do.
Even now?
Say again?
At the moment, or just in a few years' time?
I think so. I think that he would slot into that Liverpool team or that City team now. I think those two are the best two teams in Europe, and I think he slots into those two teams personally.
It's major. I just find him so similar. He's got all the hallmarks, a bit like Raheem Sterling sort of vibes. I think it's a similar style of play, not exactly the same, obviously, but just that coming in off the wing. Every time he gets the ball, can go off of both feet. Is rapid, of course, but knows what he's doing. Knows what he's doing. Or every time he gets the ball, he seems to have an idea of what he wants to do with it. And when you watch Mikel Antonio week in, week out, that seems like quite the luxury ability in a player. But yeah, go on, crack on.
You're right though, Will. You're right. He does. He can play off both feet. He's so strong as well. He doesn't look it. But if you watch the first 5 minutes of that game on Saturday, bundles Telles off the ball a couple of times, stamps his authority straight down on him. I went with a friend and turned to him straight after a minute, and I said, Saka's going to have Telles in bits here on this toast, whole game, and he did, and he was incredible again. I thought, and he consistently is incredible. He's consistently our best player. He had at the start of the season he struggled for a bit. I think the summer, obviously what happened last summer, played on his mind a little bit, and he just needed a few games to get back into it. But since sort of October, that time, November time, he has been absolutely incredible.
Well, I backed him for a brace and Arsenal to win. So after the pen went in, I was like, here we go, £150 coming my way. And but yeah, even obviously didn't manage to score again, but an all-round class performance. The Arteta effect this season, then there was a bit of a roller. It's a bit of such a peculiar season for so many teams again, isn't it? I mean, the continual sort of continual banging on, if you like, from everyone concerned with football, fans, pundits, players, managers alike. This idea that Man United have still got this God-given right to be at the top of the Premier League, even though they've been a shambles. Arsenal had their own troubles, didn't they? There was lots of not lots, but a reasonable amount of calls earlier in the season for Arteta's head on a plate and for him to be moved on. He's not the right man, blah, blah, blah. I think it was Edu who came out and unequivocally backed him. The moving Aubameyang on seemed like an absolute masterstroke now. And it seems to me like you're building something sustainable for the sort of mid to longish term. Are you sort of convinced or still doubts?
I think you've got it spot on there, Will, to be honest with you. The way I sort of describe it is that we're at the stage that Klopp was at 6 or 7 years ago. And I'm not, when did he come in 6 years ago? And I'm not saying that we'll ever get to that Liverpool level, because the level they're playing at now is that's a generational team. That is that Liverpool team, and that squad is you can't compete with the level that they're playing at the minute. But what he is trying to do is build a team and a young squad there that is challenging, that is trying to challenge those two in 3-4 years time. That's the plan for everyone now, isn't it? They're so far above everyone, like we said. They're even way above Chelsea now, aren't they? Like Chelsea, I mean, Chelsea are going to have their issues for quite a while now with they're never going to be the same powerhouse in terms of the money spent and whatnot, depending on who comes in. So you've got to just try and get up to their level and then try and compete with them. And I think he is the best man to do that at the minute. But like you say, it always feels like at every club, he loses 3 games on the bounce at Southampton, Palace, and Brighton.
Clueless, shambles.
It's calling for his head again. So, but I'm very much in the Arteta in camp. I like what he's done. I like you're spot on with the Aubameyang. I'm not necessarily sure it was. It's difficult because we didn't replace him with a striker, and that might be our undoing in the long run. We should have signed a striker in January. That was stupid of the club not to do that in my eyes. But he wanted to get out players that weren't in his. They didn't follow his philosophy. They weren't.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to say bad eggs because it doesn't look like Aubameyang's a bad guy at all. But that you can see what I'm trying to say. That people that are in it for him.
He was trying to build a culture, isn't he, as well?
Say again, sorry.
Trying to build a culture.
For sure. Exactly that. And I went on an Arsenal podcast pre-season, and we talked about Arteta and the way he is, and I was asked about what he's like at press conferences and things like that. And it's very much his way or the highway. He doesn't give anything away to anyone. He's a very clever man. He doesn't. He doesn't suffer fools easily, and that's what I kind of like about him. And it looks like he's creating a squad and a team there. And even after the losses, and then after that Chelsea game, he talks about how he was happy to win that Chelsea game, not for him, but for those players, because they work for him and they work 100%, and they come in for extra sessions and they do all the things that he wants, the hard work and like you say, I think that he is the man now for the future. Even if we don't get in the top 4, I think you have to back him again in the summer, because our squad is nowhere near complete. We need another striker and midfielder, we'll have Saliba coming back from Marseille in the summer. I think you back him in the summer again, and we go again, because I think there's no one out there that I can think of that would do a job that he's doing.
Of course, that's always half the conversation, isn't it? Yeah, it certainly seems like Arsenal are on an upward curve at the moment. So this game on Sunday, we've sort of half alluded to it already. Honestly, And I don't think every West Ham fan shares my attitude on this. Certainly, Jonesy, who was speaking earlier in the podcast, has a slightly different opinion of me. But I really, honestly, do not care what happens on Sunday, providing we turn up this Thursday and next. I honestly couldn't care. And people go, oh, and I've never really felt like that, even when we're in the doldrums of being awful for so many seasons. I'd still want to beat Blackburn at home to finish 14th instead of 16th or whatever. But I just, honestly, I'm so wrapped up in.
You're going to play the kids for us, aren't you? Surely.
Well, I mean, we haven't got any defenders left. Craig Dawson determined to make sure that he's playing in the semi-final of the Europa League, so gets himself sent off at the weekend. So he's banned. Zuma, Ogbonna, and Diop all injured. So God knows what our centre backs are going to look like. We might just play like 2-6-2 or something like that. And it's such a strange feeling. And I think the difference is, unlike, Jonesy and a few of my mates at the weekend talking, were sort of arguing, you have to be across all things, and I understand that, but we're not at that level yet. We're not at that stage yet. And I think the quickest way to get to a club who are like that, where we've got enough depth in the squad and whatever to battle on more than one front, is by winning the Europa League. We have to technically, I would only have to win 2 games of football. Obviously, the bigger margin in one of the semi-finals. You can afford to have a defeat, and then you get a one-off shot at the final. And all those teams we're playing, Frankfurt are 9th in the Bundesliga, hardly tearing up trees. They're okay, but the performances we've put in this season show we can do it on our day against anyone, really. And RB Leipzig are the most threatening team, I think, left in the competition.
I agree.
3rd or 4th in the Bundesliga at the moment.
Yeah.
And I honestly think we've never been here before. It's so novel and it's so enjoyable, and I'm loving it so much that the idea, and Jones, you were saying about, it'd be good to get in the Conference League. That's not going to hold on to Declan Rice. That's not going to attract the huge caliber of player any better than we could get anyway next season. Being in the Champions League would affect those 2 things. And we're not going to have a chance again for years, in my opinion, to win 2 games to get in the Champions League. Certainly not via the Prem. So, in my opinion, I think it's just go all out.
Not. I don't think as well, Will, like you say, to the level. Like, I know, like they're there for a reason. Leipzig and Frankfurt and
Rangers. Sorry,
Rangers. They're there obviously for a reason, but they're not. You've beaten better teams than that this season. A lot better teams than that. Even in the Europa League, you've beaten better teams than those 3, I think. And you've consistently competed at a high level in the Premier League. I agree with you. I don't like. We were in the same situation as West Ham were, where we hadn't got in this was a few years ago, and then we got to the Europa League final and got hammered by Chelsea. But it was sort of all or nothing, and you've got to go all on. Like you say, you've got 2. You could be 2 games away from Champions League football. You've got to go all in on that, surely. Like, that is all that matters now. And like you say, from an outside perspective, it doesn't look to me like you have the squad to compete across loads of different competitions. You're not Liverpool. No one is. No. So they do. So you've got to put all your focus on one thing. And I'm not just saying this because I'm an Arsenal fan and I want us to win on Sunday, and you should play the kids because of that. I mean, it is going to be very weird on Sunday to see. It's going to be such a weird atmosphere because obviously, I don't even think. I agree with you. I don't think I don't think your fans will be particularly interested in what happens on Sunday, whereas our whole season rides on games
exactly
like Sunday. So God knows what it's going to be like at the London Stadium, because everyone's going to be worried, talking about what had happened the Thursday before, and then looking ahead to the Thursday after. I agree.
We'll probably nick an ugly 1-1 or something with like no play. Yarmolenko will score after 4 mins. You'll be all over us with 80% possession for the rest of the game, and like nick one in the 75th minute.
Yeah,
and that'll be 1-1. Neither team will be that buzzing, but
I've been to one of the games I always think about is that I thought, going into a game thinking, they've got so many injuries and they won't be bothered about it. Was a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago now, when Rashford, I think it was his debut, and we went up to Old Trafford, and they had so many injuries and whatnot, and they were playing kids that I think had played one appearance for United.
Yeah.
So Valero, I think his name was, the fullback. And they ended up beating us 3-2, and we needed it was such a big game for us, and we ended up messing it up. And
yeah.
I do have those similar vibes about Sunday, where West Ham won't even be interested in winning it. No one will care, and they'll nick a jammy 1-0 win against us, like you say, Yarmolenko. That is going around my head at the minute that that might happen. But yeah, I agree with you. I think that West Ham shouldn't be worried about Sunday. Like, the league is, you've had a good, like, if you could have offered this season where they'd said you finished like 15th but got to the semi-final and had a chance to get in the Champions League, you would have taken it, weren't you? So the league is irrelevant now, isn't it? Like, you're not going to get in the Champions League through the league because games have caught up with you now. But so why not? Like, the Europa Conference League, that, like you say, that's not going to keep Declan Rice, is it? He's not interested. No. Whereas Declan Rice stays, in my eyes, next season if you get the Champions League.
100%.
But if you don't, he probably, like, and who would blame him for wanting to go in the summer if you don't get
it? Exactly. I agree. So look, what do you reckon? How's the game going to go? We'll do score predictions in a minute, but sort of style-wise or whatever, what team you're going to play? Obviously, it is a huge game for Arsenal. And I'll be honest, I don't often say this on the podcast. We did our charity bets already. I can't see anything other than a convincing Arsenal win, really, like just a proper run-of-the-mill 3-0. I know it doesn't always go like that, but I think it's going to go there. But how do you see the game going up style-wise?
I don't think I've ever seen a convincing Arsenal 3-0 win, Will. So I wouldn't agree with you there. But I think we'll win because, like you say, it means way more to us than it does for you. Our whole season is riding on the next 5 games and getting in that top 4. We'll have, I think Tommy Asu will be back on Sunday.
He came off the bench, didn't he? Yeah,
he did. Yeah, and he's a big part of the way we play, and a big upgrade on Cedric. So that'll be good. I don't think the party might be back as well. So we've got a couple of players coming back from injury and fitness. And I agree. I just don't think West Ham would, like, I could be totally wrong, and it is wrong for me to suggest footballers won't be focused on a certain game, because the West Ham players have got more pride than that. But I just think that there's so many distractions around West Ham that I can only see an Arsenal win. But it is Arsenal, isn't it? So you never know what you're going to get out of them. But I just think, like you say, you've got quite like you've mentioned the injuries you've got and things like that. And I think that our attackers, the form that Saka's in, and Odegaard and those players might just be a bit too strong for you on Saturday. But again, you never know with Arsenal what you're going to get. Like, I've been in this such scenario so many times, Will, where you think you go into a game,
everything lining up,
everything's going your way. It looks like it's like you say, an easy 2-0 win, and we all go home. But
head 90 minutes later, head in hands.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's the only way to be an Arsenal fan, to be honest with you. So if you just brace yourself for that.
Yeah, I think though, I think there'd be a few around London Stadium if we were in good nick after Thursday's first leg, and you beating us means that it sort of makes it even more unlikely that Spurs are getting in the Champions League. I think there'll be a couple of quietly contented West Ham fans looking forward to next Thursday.
Exactly. I mean, the perfect scenario, I think, if we all shake hands now on Arsenal top 4, West Ham Europa League winners.
Yeah,
I'll take
1-0 to you, nothing embarrassing. 1-0 to you, nothing embarrassing. And as long as you promise not to injure any of our players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and we all go home happy.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Yeah. Unlucky. Sorry, Tottenham.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, Cutsy, it's been great having you back on the show again, mate. Give us a score prediction then. Sunday, London Stadium.
We won't keep a clean sheet against you just because we don't keep clean sheets. It feels like anymore. 3-1 Arsenal. I think I'd like to say our attack will be a little bit too strong for you in the end, just because like injuries and things have caught up with you a little bit. And you'll give it a go through like you say the pride that you have, and David Moyes won't accept anything other than that, will he? But exactly. I just think we might be a little bit too strong for you on Sunday. Sorry.
Yeah, I've I'd never normally back of the feet, but 3-1 sounds about right. I'd even be surprised we scored, quite honestly, especially as we're probably going to play Yarmolenko up front instead of Antonio. But we'll see what happens, mate. It's been great having you on again.
Thanks for having me,
mate. Joining us. Dan Cutts, sports journalist from The Sun and massive Arsenal fan, joining us to look ahead to that game on Sunday at London Stadium. Stay with